I promise you, this will haunt your thoughts tonight. These are real events that gripped an entire town in cold terror and morphed into a terrifying urban legend. But it wasn't fiction. Welcome to the Nightside Archive, your portal to stories born in shadows and whispers that keep the night alive. Tonight we present The Phantom Killer of Texarkana. Stop for a moment and think about your home. Imagine your town's parks and streets, places that are safe and familiar. Now, imagine someone lurking in that same comfort zone, disrupting the very fabric of security you've always known. This was the unsettling nightmare experienced by the residents of Texarkana in the spring of 1946. Texarkana is a quiet little area straddling the border of Texas and Arkansas. The type of place where folks knew each other by name, families ate together at the dinner table, and front doors were often left unlocked. But 1946 changed everything for this community. That was the year a man known only as the Phantom Killer began preying on its residents. His reign of terror spanned only 10 weeks, but struck so deeply that it left scars still raw over 70 years later. Our story begins on February 22nd, 1946, during an unusually cool and windy night. Jimmy Hollis and his girlfriend, Mary Jean Larry, decided to enjoy an evening drive. They parked on a secluded road known to locals as Lover's Lane. They expected laughs, conversation, possibly a stolen kiss, but the only thing stolen that night was their sense of safety. At approximately 11:55 p.m., a figure emerged from the shadows. Facing the couple, he wore a flour sack with holes cut out for his eyes, looking eerily like a demented Halloween disguise. He had a pistol pointed directly at them. "Get out of the car," he demanded in a low, gruff voice. They complied, but what happened next was beyond anyone's comprehension. Jimmy was savagely beaten with the pistol until his skull fractured. Mary Jean was forced to run away, barefoot, across a rugged area. She thought until her last breath she wouldn't make it out. But miraculously, she did. Though both survived, the descriptions they gave of the attacker varied greatly, and law enforcement was left grasping at straws in their attempts to identify him. Horrifying as it was, this was just the beginning. Flash forward to March 24th, 1946. Another couple, Richard Griffin and Polly Ann Moore, were discovered dead inside their car, which was parked in a remote area. The crime scene reeked of brutality. Both had been shot, and unlike Jimmy and Mary Jean, they could not retell the terrors inflicted on them. Panic began to grow like wildfire in Texarkana. The local police, inexperienced with cases of this magnitude, called in the Texas Rangers to help. But the Phantom Killer seemed to always stay one step ahead. April 14th brought yet another murder. Paul Martin and Betty Jo Booker were found dead after attending a school dance. Nancy was discovered hours before Paul. Her body was abandoned near local woods. Booker's saxophone, oddly, was missing and never recovered. These details added new complexities to the case without answering questions. If anything, they made the killer even harder to profile. Each attack grew in violence, as if the Phantom relished in his rising infamy. Local stores experienced a surge in gun sales, and residents triple-checked their locks. Families huddled in stores after dark. Some even boarded their windows shut, unsure if and when the next strike would come. But what of Texarkana's law enforcement? Frustration mounted as evidence proving elusive became routine. The killer left no clear fingerprints or personal items behind. Some locals began whispering that the Phantom wasn't human at all. that he was some sort of malevolent specter. We hope you're still with us because the next victims deepen the darkness of this story. Fast forward to May 3rd, 1946. Virgil and Katie Starks were at home on the Arkansas side of Texarkana. It was a quiet evening. Katie prepared their usual bedtime tea, while Virgil tuned the radio in their living room. Suddenly, 2 shots shattered the window, striking Virgil in the back of the head, killing him instantly. Katie rushed to the phone, but the phantom struck her too, though remarkably, despite being shot multiple times, she survived. Staggering to a neighbor's house for help, she recounted chilling details, but they added little to the police investigation. The Phantom Killer's violent spree gripped Texarkana tighter than ever. Multiple suspects were interrogated over the years, and tips poured in, but no arrests were made. And just as suddenly as the attacks began, they ended. The Phantom Killer simply vanished, leaving behind a trail of devastating fear and unanswered questions. What makes this case endure? Many believe it's because this wasn't only Texarkana's trauma, it was America's. The Phantom Killer struck just after World War II, when citizens were desperate for normalcy. These murders were a dark contrast to the American dream so many worked hard to restore. In the decades since, theories have swirled around the identity of the Phantom. Some latch onto the idea of a local man named U.L. Swinney, a petty criminal whose wife made cryptic comments tying him to the crimes, but later retracted them. Others dive into less grounded theories of paranormal involvement, or suggest he may have been a traveler who moved on, spreading terror elsewhere. And Texarkana remembers. A peculiar tradition, a movie screening of the town that dreaded Sundown, based on the events, takes place annually. But behind the kitschy atmosphere lies an unshakable truth. The Phantom Killer forever shattered the illusion that small towns are immune to big fears. As the night deepens and your own shadows stretch longer on the walls, consider the stark reality that some mysteries may never be solved. The Phantom Killer could have been your neighbor, your co-worker, or even a passerby in your own life's story. And even now, Texarkana sits haunted, not just by memory, but by the terrifying idea that he could have been anyone. This has been another chilling episode of Nightside Archive. Rest easy if you can.